Good morning, everyone. Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, my name is Nick Winters, and today Dennis and myself will try and enlighten you about the world hide market, and hopefully after our 20 minutes you'll understand a bit more how the market works internationally. First of all, I'd like to say that to understand today's market, we need to check some historical data. We've seen a significant increase in world trade over the last 20 years. Less trade restrictions have encouraged more open trade in the hide and skin markets. Obviously, with modern technology, fax, email, we've seen increase in speed in deals done and concluded. 30 years ago, telexes, letters sent from the other side of the world. Today, within 30 seconds, business is concluded. Also, I would like to mention that more market information is publicly available to the trade today, several market reports. So we'll start our presentation. Dennis.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I want, as you can see on these slides, you can see some interesting figure. As you can see, the comparison with export value of the other commodities. The raw hides and skins, as you can see on the first line, is $4.77 billion, which is about 22% of the value of the international meat trade. And if we consider all the hides and finished leather and footwear, you can see that the value is $65.3 billion, which is 3 times the meat trade, which is very important. As you can see, the value of the hides market is very important compared to the meat trade, but this can be explained as usually the meat is eaten in the local countries, and the hides, unfortunately for such country, you have to move the hide to other countries.
Here we have a graph on exports. So this is quantity, so thousands of tons. Basically, we've seen the quantity of global exports have increased over a 20-year period. You can see that the world production, the world export quantity has risen 0.5% per annum from 92 to 2010. There's a couple of important figures here. If you'd like to see that Europe, for the bovine content, is still, if we take the 2008-2010 figures, Europe is number 1 in front of North America. So Europe is exporting 957,000 tons of bovine hide. North America, second place, is 762,000 tons. And then back third place for the Far East and fourth place Oceania. If we look at the sheep market, not surprisingly we have Australia and New Zealand, Oceania with 65,000 tons, and Europe in second place with 60,000 tons. You can see this probably better on the graph. You can see that in the blue these are figures for 92-94. So you've had a sharp increase from an export in quantity from Europe. So less hides and skins are staying within Europe. More hides are heading towards the Far East, lower cost countries. North America, the same thing. On the ovine, you can see a sharp increase as well from New Zealand and Australia. Europe in second place. These are thousands of tons.
Now you can see the raw hides and skins structure of the world trade. As you can see, the net in trade, that means the export less the import. You can see on this figure the developing countries, which have a minus value of 1,233 billion. These are in tons. I beg your pardon. 1,234,000 tons. the developing countries, you have a large increase in developing countries, which you can see is plus 185%. And the developed countries, the trade, it means they export a lot because we have over 1 billion ton. And this confirms the shift in finished products to cheaper countries, Asia and Far East today. And the increase in export of development countries, as you can see, is 162% the last 2 years compared with 20 years ago.
Now we're going to take a look at not so much the quantity, but the value of exports. And the interesting figures are, we see that from 92 to 2010, we saw the rawhide market was up around 10%. At Europe, still number one with $1.9 billion. Number two, North America, 1.8 billion, and Oceania at 0.65 billion. If we go to the second column, you can see rough tanned and finished leathers. So this is including wet blue and crust. Europe, to my surprise, we're still number one at 6.8 billion, and in second place we have the Far East at 4.5 billion. On the right-hand side, you can see this is footwear with leather uppers. There you have an increase of 202%, which is showing a real increase in disposable income and re-export back to richer countries. So basically, the further you go towards the finished product, we've had a more added value from the raw to the finished product. So that explains the 200% compared to 10% on the rawhide, adding value at each step.
On this graph, you can see the export value going up or going down. And if you take the value increase about 35% from 1992 to 2010, but you can really see on the graph the difference of the value of the hides. That means if you take 2009, you see a deep drop, which is a financial crisis, and also the drop of the price of the hides. And afterwards, the price going up again. You can see on the last line in the red, the developing countries still holding a steady market, share of world export value at 92%. You have the same graph for the sheepskins market. As you can see, we have exactly the same problem. Only the world value increased only 10% instead of 35% for the big hides. But you see the different value due to the variation of the cost of the sheepskins. And you have the same problem in 2009 with a big drop. And today the price going up again. And the developing countries increase the market shares of world export value of the period from 79% to 91%.
Right. I'd like to show you this graph here, which is quite interesting. The heavy Texas steer markets, heavy Texas steer out of the States is probably one of the most traded hides in the world, especially for shoe upper, for shoe leathers. 55% of the world production is going into shoe upper. So this graph, if you can look, you basically got different averages, 2-year average, 3-year, 5-year. If we look at the 10-year average on the HTS seasonal prices, because on the bottom you have January to December, you can basically see that the 10-year average is showing a gradual shift to higher prices from January to August. In August, we see a peak in prices, and from August to the end of the year, we see a slower reduction in prices. Obviously, this is not necessarily applicable to Europe, where we have to manage the Italian summer shutdown. A lot of the Italian tanners close end of July to early September. So that's a complicated thing to manage for abattoirs and hide traders.
The global cattle... no, c'est pas bon, c'est pas le bon slide. That's good. As you can see on this graph, the number of bovine or animals is always growing in the world. You can see in developing countries it's growing too, as in steady or going slightly down in the developed countries. You pass from 400 million cattle heads in 1992 to 1,600,000 in 2011, which is an increase about 2% per year. You have exactly the same figure, no, not exactly the same figure for the sheepskin, so more or less you can see the developing countries is going down. The developing country is going up, the developed is still going down, and let's say the figure totally is more or less the same for the sheepskins, for the sheep.
You have
the global cattle.
You have few minutes. Minutes, okay?
So as you can see here, the annual world bovine slaughter increased from 260 to 310 million head over a 20-year period. This accounts for an increase of about 20%. We can suppose an unequal increase in the amount of hides entering into the market. Regarding the sheep population, this one is stagnant, increasing in the developing countries and decreasing the developing countries. For your information, in Europe, if you take the last 5 years, the killing is done about 2.6%.
This is a graph that I put together. I thought it was of interest to everyone. We have in the red the global population, okay? And on the left we have the slaughter. So if you see that from the axis of the graph, you can see that the human population is increasing faster than the global slaughter. So we're basically going to run into problems here with the slaughter is not going fast enough to catch up with demand in beef. Emerging markets are getting richer and more people are rising from poverty into the middle classes. Just an example, in China every year we have 65 million people entering the middle class, which is the population of France. The general consensus is that beef consumption increases as disposable income increases. So we're heading for basically higher demand for protein and beef. Demand is not being satisfied, and we can conclude that we could see higher prices for beef and hides and skins. For leather, a shortage of hides in relation to increasing demand for leather goods, especially in the emerging markets. We forecast higher average 10-year prices from 2010 to 2020 compared to that of the previous 10 years. Leather will naturally become more a luxury item. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Denise, for the truly comprehensive speech on the hides market that, as we already underlined, influence directly all our production chain business. And let's now move on to another aspect of the fifth quarter, that is the use of not edible products. The BSE crisis in many parts of the world has caused a sweeping change in the use of these products following the introduction of health bans, which today probably begin to appear partly unjustified and which we'll all hope can one day be reviewed, considering the positive epidemiologic development of BSE and the constant increase in world demand for protein. At the same time, the demand for fat is increasing worldwide, including demand for non-edible fats, whose prices have reached heights which would have been unheard of only a few years ago. During the introduction of Paolo De Castro, he mentioned the issue of the competition between fuel, feed, and food. Our products can solve this problem because our biomasses is not in competition. These are byproducts that can be opportunity used to create energy. For this issue, I give the floor to David Kaludzny. David is the executive president of Kaludzny Bros, an Illinois company, and he's the president, not the vice president. There is a mistake in the program. He's the president of the World Renderer Association. And please, David, I remind you, strictly observe your time. Thanks.